Yeah, I mean, I guess we have to do it.
Ain't no point of dragging it out. This is what they want to hear.
Yeah, this is why they're here. This is why they're here, and this is what they want to hear. Would you like to start it off? Because I'm going to tap dance, unfortunately. I'm going to tap dance, but then at some point, I'm sure I'll probably gas myself up to get where I need to get.
You're going to tap? Oh, go ahead.
Do you want to read off the report or the tweet?
Yeah.
Because that would be a phenomenal way to kick it off.
Got it. Joe Person. In a move that has felt, no, for sure. Shout out Joe Person, too. I rock with Joe Person. Dave Newton, on the other hand, fuck him. Joe Person, via X, in a move that has felt imminent since early September, Panthers placed the franchise tag on Brian Burns. It's not the non-exclusive, so Burns can negotiate with other teams. However, the Carolina Panthers have the right to match any offer. If they don't, they get 2 first-round picks.
Phenomenal move on the Panthers' part, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, from what the position they sit in now, this puts them in a great situation. I mean, I'm happy that, Dan Morgan and Dave Canales came out and said in the draft combine, we will know what the fuck we're doing with BB by the time this combine ends, and then, standing by their word, you place the tag
on business.
Yeah. Hey, he can either play under it, he can either sit, he can either seek a trade, we can match. If not, give us our 2 first rounds and fucking beat it. And
I don't like that, bro. I don't like the dismissal of it because, this shit. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm not going to cut you off.
I understand where you're going with it. Cool. We should have paid you in the offseason. We fucked around with your money. I agree with that.
Pause. You're absolutely right. Buddy should have stood on business.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We fucked around with your money, cool. But if it was so much of a problem, then don't play. Don't suit up. Don't come to training camp. Don't get on the field and give half-ass effort. If the money was such that big of a problem, then just don't play. I'd rather you just not play and we just say we don't have Brian Burns. We're going to sit out. He's going to sit out until we pay him.
Especially at 2-15.
Yeah, we were fine with that. We were fine with that going into the season.
Yes.
We were completely fine with that. So it's not like something that we were pushing for as a fan base, at least not FPFO. We wasn't pushing for it. And so, I mean, it's a time where we're looking in a new direction. We got a new staff. We got a new GM, a new head coach. So everybody has their perception of what they want the team to look like and what we want to look like going forward. And unfortunately, Brian Burns is just one of those situations that's like a fucking dark cloud over the franchise at this point. What are you going to do? So it's we need to go ahead and address that as quick as we can. And so I commend the Carolina Panthers by putting themselves in that situation to where at this point we have the leverage. You do what the fuck you want to do. We're going to do what we want to do. We have the leverage. Either way, we're good.
Okay, cool. You inspired me. So now we can have an actual conversation. We can start, I guess, 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, when the Los Angeles Rams offered 2 first-round picks to the Carolina Panthers. Not only 2 first-round picks, but also a 2024 second-round pick. First and foremost, the Carolina Panthers completely botched this whole shit. That's the only. I mean, they really completely dicked it over. And like I said, like I've mentioned multiple times, we're trying to do better with the profanity and make it more family friendly. So, if you're watching with your family or whatever, apologies. But there's no other way to describe it. And we're a little bit deeper into the podcast, so we can let that shit go a little bit more. But the Carolina Panthers dicked the whole situation. Literally, in my opinion, they dicked it. You had the 2 first-round picks. You turn that down. Go to training camp summer 2023. Can't get a deal done then. And then fast forward to now when we go with the non-exclusive tag. From Tavian's perspective, from my perspective, obviously there will be people on one side of the fence or the other. I believe this was the right move for the Carolina Panthers. We met with his team in Indianapolis. Scott Fitter was very, very vocal about on Thursday or Wednesday of
Dan Morgan.
Or excuse me, my apologies. Yes, Dan Morgan. Very vocal about meeting with his team in Indianapolis and having a deal or having some words for fans after the combine. He stood on business. He stood on his word. Unfortunately, I for the life of me, I don't know what the number is.
Well, they came out and said that he was asking for $30 million a year.
No, don't see. And that's another thing that fans have done too. Nearly $30 million.
Nearly
$30 million can mean a plethora of things to me. And so I didn't even fuck with the fact that the article was written that way.
Well, aren't you happy that we didn't give him $30 million a year based off what he did this season? So maybe they knew something.
If you ask me that question and then you put based on what he did this season on it, absolutely. But am I happy that we didn't give him $30 million right now at this point in the process? I don't know. I don't know because, like I said, the Carolina Panthers they made this bad. So you save your ass because guess what? If a team wants to come over here and pay you $33.5 million, I can almost guarantee Brian Burns and his team right now the Carolina Panthers are not giving you $33.5 million. And the Carolina Panthers are just fine sitting back and saying, you know, kick rocks. We appreciate your service. Absolutely love you, homegrown talent, etc. But we just simply can't afford that right now. I understand that perspective. However, a lot of fans have this kind of jaded idea and opinion on you can just go out and find a Brian Burns. And listen, my stance has changed multiple times on Brian Burns. 2 years ago, I was extremely tough on him. Last year, at times, I was tough on him because I just thought it was an effort thing. But I also had in the back of my hand that the contract negotiations and things of that nature could be playing a part in that. So I agree with you on that. We on FPFO, all three of us believed if you weren't going to play at 100% because of your money, then simply don't play. Because we championed that idea, specifically me. I'll just go out on a limb. Any player that is not getting their money and they feel like they're not getting their worth and the team is not willing to budge, don't fucking play. So I agree with you on that. Do I believe last year was subpar for him with 8 sacks? Absolutely. So it's hard because, like we mentioned, multiple times he lost his leverage. However, if you're the Carolina Panthers, and what I challenge Carolina Panthers fans to just pause and take a look at is the fact that Brian Burns just don't pop up. Like, I know the taste in our mouth pause is a little nasty right now because, you know, he did only put up 8 sacks this past season. And at times he did look like he wasn't playing 100% with 100% effort. And then the rumors with the injuries and stuff like that. So I understand the perspective. However, we're not going to sit here and act like just last summer when GMs and coaches and player personnel were asked and they said, give us your top 10 defensive ends or your top 10 pass rushers, we're not going to sit here and act like Brian Burns wasn't number 7. We're not. I can't allow Panthers fans to get that shit off. Yeah. Because I know that it's tough right now because of what he did last year, but I just simply can't allow us to forget that. And I can't allow us to forget the fact that these type guys don't just come every single season. Like, that shit is great that we'll get those two first-round picks, but who's to say that we won't get the 2 first-round picks and dick it off? We've seen that on multiple occasions, specifically with this franchise.
And that's very possible, but you want more darts to throw out the board than not. And I feel like taking 2 swings in the first round at this point is more valuable than Brian Burns based off of solely what we saw him put on the field and put on tape last season. But I really do like the move of franchise tagging him with that non-exclusive tag because you do save face in getting those 2 first-round picks in case it doesn't work out for you. And you also, simultaneously, you allow him to test the market and see where his value is, to see what other teams value him at, because that's a really big part in this. You don't want to end up overpaying for a guy who, realistically, last season we came in thinking was of that upper echelon of pass rushers, and he just showed us that he might not need to be considered in that light. Probably should be considered more along the lines of, I don't even want to say like Montez Sweat, who last season got traded from Washington to Chicago. I mean, pull up the stats, pull up the numbers, look at them side by side. Montez Sweat had a better season on both of his teams
last year
with 2 different teams. But if you take his stats just from the Commanders and you take his stats just from the Bears, I believe both of them were better than Brian Burns' stats. So I believe he's in that group of pass rushers, and I no longer believe Brian Burns is one of the top pass rushers in the league. And I don't think that's really unfair to say because he had his best season opposite of a Hassan Reddick, which was another elite pass rusher taking some of that pressure off of him. And you still have an elite player on that D-line, and you still couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, and I will also say this as well, just to touch on your point. We can very much well possible mess up the first-round picks, but you also got to think we do have a different we have a different group in there who's going to be heading the draft. Now, if it all goes to what we think will happen and what we believe and hope will happen, and Dave Tepper and his wife Nicole steps back, then, we can have a little bit of hope of what we do with those first-round picks. But I also think, going back to the situation as a whole, I think both can be true. I think that you can – I also agree that Brian Burns, these type caliber players don't just fall out of the sky. I was one of Brian Burns' biggest fans.
Oh, for sure.
Like the past 2 years.
Yeah,
but
most definitely.
I think this business is about updating your resume. Like, that's what you have to do. You have to update your resume. And if deep down in your heart, you go out on the field and put that effort on the field, knowing that, you're up for a contract, knowing that this is the season that every team is going to be looking at. This is the season that the Carolina Panthers are going to be looking at. And you put that effort on the field, I'm not mad at any fan that's just like, okay, fuck them. Like, I'm not mad at that because it's
I guess I see your point.
Yeah, you can't be mad at that, especially being in the position that the Carolina Panthers have put themselves in to at least get something in return. Now, I completely agree. We've been in agreement with this, that the Panthers completely messed up this situation because this shit shouldn't have had to get to this point. But unfortunately, it has because we know what kind of owner we have. We know what kind of GM we had at the time. We know what kind of coach we had at the time. So, unfortunately, it has gotten to this situation. So, now we just got to roll with what the fuck we got. We got to roll with the punches.
And it's definitely not an unfair perspective to have it, considering the fact that we championed for him and saying that he was on a contract year. You and I sat here and predicted that he would have 15 sacks, 16. We were expecting a massive performance from Brian Burns, and he just, quite frankly, came in and shit the bed.
Yeah, I mean, over the summer, you couldn't tell me shit different. Because what I seen in training camp, now, obviously, in hindsight, there were a couple of things that played a part. It came Kwanu, and Taylor Moton, too. Fuck that nigga. He always be hating on us for whatever reason. Shout out to you, bit bro. It's all love. I ain't gonna lie, it's love. But over the summer, you couldn't have told me and Tavian, specifically me, that Brian Burns wasn't gonna lead the damn NFL in sacks. That Brian Burns wasn't gonna have a different type career year this past season. What I will say, I commend Brian Burns for betting on himself because if we're taking a wider look at this, both parties really fucked themselves in this situation. If we're just gonna have an honest conversation, the Carolina Panthers, we know the deal with them, and then when you look at Brian Burns, you got to stand on business, bro. And this is why I say I commend him for betting on himself because, I believe that he was betting on himself, but I also believe Brian Burns, participated in training camp and participated in the season because he didn't want to leave his brothers hanging.
He's a football player.
And he is a football player.
He loves the game of football. So,
yes.
I mean, it is commendable he bet on himself, but unfortunately, it's always someone on the losing end of the bet.
That's very true.
So,
that's very true, and unfortunately, Brian Burns just so happened to get burned and no pun intended, obviously, but just so happened to get burned in this particular situation. Like I said, I believe there was mismanagement and misguidance on both sides of the table. For Brian Burns, our stance was, and I believe, over training camp when he didn't show up the first day or two or whatever the case was, I think that me and Terrence kind of echoed the same sentiment and, okay, cool, well, this is what we got to deal with. Then he comes back, he says he wants to be there for his brothers. Everybody's commending him. Everybody, it's a parade until shit hit the fan. And that's just how it goes. Like Terrence said, this is a business at the end of the day. So, it's phenomenal. We love Brian Burns. We say this and that because he's putting the team above himself, etc. But when it's time for that money to get dealt out, niggas have to take a step back and look at the situation for what it is. Again, at the end, in hindsight, it looks as though Brian Burns may have hurt himself by playing this season, especially with the effort that he did. But to me, there's still a certain level of honorability, I guess you can say, for him betting on himself, because I'm that type guy. I respect guys like that. However, like I said, 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago, if it was JJ, I would have been at the crib, hand on dick, chilling. and until I see 29.5, 30 on paperwork, niggas can't find me.
Yeah.
So
and just in wrapping on the whole Brian Burns situation, just in life, but really in the game of football, when you're blessed with an opportunity like Brian Burns to be as physically gifted and to have the opportunity to be a first-round pick, to be a face of a franchise, to play a child's game for millions of dollars in a game in which people love and enjoy, you got to go out there and it's easier said than done sitting on the sideline, of course, but you have to go out there and you have to give 100% effort every time, because you're blessed. You're in a blessed position, and you should take full advantage of it and really enjoy that moment, because 99.9% of the population doesn't even get the chance to do what Brian Burns is doing.
Yeah, and it's going to become a time like this to where the shit that you put on the field, when you go back and reflect, you're going to wish that you did shit better. And I don't want it to sit up here and sound like on this podcast, we love Brian Burns. Like, we know that, people are going to watch it who's extremely close to him, whatever. It's no love lost for Brian Burns. Like I said, I was one of his biggest fans, like still a fan of Brian Burns. But at the same time, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan first. And so it's a business. If we got to move on, hate it for you, still got a lot of love for you, but you just don't fit with the Carolina Panthers anymore in the direction that we're going, unfortunately.
Let's play a game to wrap this specific topic up. Non-exclusive, right?
Okay.
Both of y'all are the GM of the Carolina Panthers, right? Y'all are both Dan Morgan in this situation. Let's play a game, okay? You tell me when you stop, when you no longer are willing to match whatever the other team is willing to offer.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna say a number. Y'all tell me we'll match it or we won't match it. Okay. We'll start 24.5. Obviously, that's a yes because that's what the non-exclusive tag is.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just go up to be respectful, because I believe that the conversation only gets started if we say 26.5. The conversation only gets started if we say 26.5. So 26.5, Tavian.
Yes.
I'll match it.
28.
No.
I'll match it.
28.5.
I'll match it.
You're saying no on 28?
Well, what did Max Crosby have?
28.
28.5, I believe.
But that was like 2 or
That
3
was 2
seasons ago.
yeah,
The
that was
salary
2 or
cap
3
just
years
jumped
ago.
up by.
Well, shit. What I seen Max Crosby do, he right back in that conversation. So, I mean.
The salary cap did just jump up, and we're going to touch on that as well.
Right.
Excuse me. My apologies.
That's why I didn't go any further.
4 years, $94 million. Guaranteed to 26. Hold on. Let's see. Let's pull it up. 28 is nasty, Terrence. I'm not going to lie.
That's nasty?
That's disrespectful.
How?
I can tell you, I know where I'm drawing my line, though. I already got it in my head, and it's a hard line. It's a very hard line.
So are you done on 28? I can't pull up what Max Crosby has. If you listen,
no. If it's higher than what Max Crosby got, I'm done. I'm
so
out.
you're done at 28.5 because I think that's where he finished.
Cut me out.
Tavian 29,
Yes.
30.
No.
So that's where you draw the line. 29.5. 29.5.
Is where I draw the line.
If it's me,
But can I add?
yes.
I draw the line at 29.5, and I tell him, I draw the line at 29.5. I offer him a 3-year contract, and I tell him we're bringing in help to boost your numbers, and you'll get a second chance at another big contract. We're gonna get you some help.
Okay.
And you can't convince me you don't need it.
Okay.
29.5, I'm drawing the line. We're gonna get you help, and we're gonna try this again in 3 years. When we see Bryce's contract will be up by then, we'll just because he'll be his fifth year
option. Yeah. Okay.
right? So we'll have a much better idea of where we're going to be in that time frame. And I'm sure the salary cap will jump again.
I think I think that I would probably draw my line at, man, I probably would draw my line at 31. And I might, and depending on how I'm feeling that day, I might even say 31 and a half.
I can't give you 30.
I can't either.
I can't give you
already,
30.
I'm already blessing you by paying you more than Max.
I can't give
because
you
you can't
30.
produce. And I'll
Don't
add
say
a
he can't produce. Don't say he can't produce. He
can't.
cannot.
You can't. I said you can't produce more than Max.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've seen nothing that would dissuade me or show me otherwise.
Because they don't got shit on that defensive line over there.
Swear they don't.
But Max.
Swear they don't.
And you pair Max with a DB?
Okay, fair enough. I think mine would be 31 and a half, bro. And I say 31 and a half because pain and suffering. That's number one. Like, I'm going to give you an extra $1 million just because we put you through all of this.
So what did you put me through?
And then the other half, I mean,
we just don't account for that.
And that's why
that's fair.
That's why I said I'll give you a nice guarantee in this contract. We'll guarantee like 65-75% of the contract. I'll go out on a limb and I'll guarantee you that because I know your history with health. As it pertains to the Panthers, you've been relatively healthy. You've been one of the healthiest players that we have. And I know at least if you don't show up in effort, your body will be there. So.
Okay. I can give him 31 and a half because this is the thing, bro. If we allow him, so cool. We're doing 24 and a half because we think that right now your team as well as yourself have you overvalued. Now, if another team comes out and we're in negotiations, we match what they do at 28 and a half, we match what they do at 30, they come out and say 31 and a half, obviously your value is somewhere near there. And we believe that Brian Burns and his team was asking for, quote unquote, nearly $30 million. So, I mean, if you're the Carolina Panthers, I understand why there's cause for pause based on his performance last year. But, like I said, Brian Burns just don't fall off the tree, bro. You can't just go to the combine and see a nigga run a 4.37 or whatever the fuck bro ran and just say, okay, cool, this is our next guy. Nah, shit doesn't quite go this way when you have a guy that just put up 12 and a half. And though 8 is very, very low for a premier edge rusher in the NFL, he still did put up 8 last year. He did. And a lot of the games that he participated in were not competitive. At some point or another, we gave up on the season. So, you know, it's one of those situations where 31 and a half, I can do it.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to tell JD to stop passing the mic back and forth.
Oh, my fault. My bad. Yeah, facts. Because you can't hear it, man. We're working on it. My apologies to the viewers. My apologies.
I mean,
but I was sorry.
Go ahead.
But in addition to that, I was gonna say, I'll tell you what, because you made a good argument. I'll meet you. Here's where I'll meet you. Right. I'll take the year that Max Crosby signed his extension, and I'll see what percentage of the salary cap he accounted for off that year's current salary.
Okay.
And we'll take it and apply it to this year. We'll do the math, account for inflation and the raise in the salary cap number, and I'll give you a little bit less than that because you're not at that level. So whatever that looks like in today's figures, you're gonna have to meet me somewhere because you're not Max Crosby, but it will be worth more than Max Crosby's contract inevitably because the salary cap has gone up.
Sure.
But you're not gonna hamstring and handcuff my defense because you're accounting for so much of the salary cap. When we just talked about cornerback needs to be filled. There's now a hole at tight end that needs to be filled. There's multiple holes at wide receiver that needs to be filled. DB has to get paid. We need to find some safeties. We got to sign Frankie or find a Frankie replacement and some other linebackers because Frankie was the only one of note. There's a lot of holes to fill, and you just can't, based off of your performance, you can't account for that much of the salary cap, respectfully, because you're not a game wrecker.
And the last thing that I'm going to say about that is you said he put up 8 sacks. Did he play every game this year?
He played 16.
Okay. So he played 16 games, had 8 sacks, and gave me 2 sacks in the first game. And proceeded to get me only 6 sacks the remainder of the year when there was a 4-game stretch where he gave me not shit. I mean, a goose egg.
And didn't he get 2 in the last game? Or, like, didn't the rest of them come, like, relatively late in the season?
Yeah, I believe there was another game where he had, like, a sack and a half or something like that. So there was, like, spread out pretty much, like, amongst, like, 4, maybe 5 games. But there was a stretch where that nigga had, like, 3 tackles in 4 games total.
Yeah, so it's like you you're just not moving the needle for me, unfortunately.
And that's why we can't give you north of Max Crosby money.
Yeah.
Quite simply.
We can give you 31 and a half. Come to JJ Enterprises, we can give you 31 and a half. You now when they start talking about 32, 33, and don't let them talk about 33 and a half, 34.
No.
Hey, yo, it's been real. It's been real, my nigga. Hey, we love you. Appreciate it. We're going to do a tribute video when you come back on the Jumbotron and shit. Love you. Peace, man. And we'll take our first rounds and get missing.
Yeah.
But
now see, Terrence, that's exactly what did he say at the start of all this? JJ would be sitting at home with his dick in his hand. To go to JJ Enterprises, JJ will be sitting at home with his dick in his hand because he's getting fired for giving you that fucking deal.
That's the last deal he'll ever do.
no, I don't think so, bro.
He's going to be right there with Frank.
31 and a half you can sell to Dave Tepper. 31 and a half you can sell to the team and the organization. 31 and a half you can sell to the fans. I think that if you start talking about 32 and up, it becomes a hard sell to everybody that I just mentioned. But 31 and a half, I'm good with it. If the Carolina Panthers match a $31.5 million deal for Brian Burns over 4 seasons, I'm good with it. I can live with it.
I mean, I can live with it, but will I do it? No.
Fair enough. Fair enough.